Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sana. I'm Mehmet, and I have with me Erik. And our guest today is, again, returning guest, Sina Rahmani from the East is a Podcast. Hello, Sina.
Hi,
Hi
Sina.
guys. Hi guys. Hi Mehmet. Hi Eric. Good to be back. This time I'm not so what's the word? Cuckoo bananas like I was last time. I was a little hyper. That episode was that was a fun episode. So I promise I said to Mehmet the other day, I said I owe you an episode where I'm not like a complete loony basket case screaming at the top of my lungs for like 45 minutes. Although I'll probably just do that, but this will be
Yeah,
more normal
Yeah,
at least.
we'll see how it
yeah. I
goes.
mean, exactly. Today, by the way, is 10th of May. Just so you know, this is the time of recording. Because I'm saying this because I just saw that, according to the Twitter account called Dolphin Iran, which is supposedly a good, reliable account. Netanyahu and Trump are holding talks tonight. The situation is being assessed as on the verge of operations. I mean, we've seen these things come and go, but yeah. So just so you know, this it's 10th of May and 9:30 Central European Time. Um, so welcome, Sina. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm like everybody else, still digesting everything that's happened, and trying to make sense of it. It's like this. It feels like some strange 3 month long, 5 month long fever dream still, because it's for me. This is like a continuation of like since basically late December when the currency crisis started, and it was just like this roller coaster of like what the heck is happening and then and so and then combine that and then with what happened in the month of January and then the follow up to all of that and then the build up to the war in February and then finally like the launch of the war in February and the last in the end it was like how many days? More than 40. It's maybe more than that. It was like
Yeah,
2 months in the end. Um, and now whatever we're in now, which is like a ceasefire, but there seems to be exchanges of fire. So I don't know how much ceasing is happening between the parties, but I'm
yeah. It
also
was like
go ahead.
a 2 week truce, or what was it for negotiations?
Well, negotiations that never really happened in the
Yeah,
first place or are happening, but because it's more that the status quo has changed so much that there's been this kind of tectonic shift around specifically Hormuz um, and the flows, like sort of global capitalist flows. Like it's an artery. This is an artery of human commerce. Like it's an artery of human civilization. Um, Actually, I remember this too. Artery is the one that goes to the heart. Has anybody a medicine here? Do we have any one unit of medicine, people?
Aorta, right?
Aorta, and then I can't. We have to look up the metaphor.
I don't.
Um,
I mean, I think artery is just one of the veins. No.
I thought,
Anyways,
yeah, I thought it's when something goes and one thing comes back. I don't know. Anyways, it's in terms of blood flow, but this is both ways because the
Mm.
waterway of Hormuz is the lifeline of these really important countries that are major oil hubs, the OPEC countries, the Persian Gulf, Arab monarchies. Everybody has to get used to saying that word again, everyone. I know you all managed to avoid the P word, but you can say it now. You're gonna have to say it if you at least if you want to cross the strait, because this is I'm like being facetious here, but in the sense that I'm also not, because there's a new order of things around this like really important waterway, and in effect, like the greatest accomplishment of this war, aside from like the deaths of human beings, but I would say at the outset, anticipating the question, that like the biggest effect of all this is the no the sort of recognition that all of this commerce and civilizational sort of flows um, took place at the let's say not the gratitude, at the hospitality of the Iranian state. Like Iran allowed all this trade to flourish forever, and because of this war, that changed. and the nature, and just simply that accomplishment, like simply that on itself, is such a devastating, consequential. Um, and it's funny, you don't, when you live as a human being, like you just live day to day, right? Like you're a normal person. You wake up, go to sleep, you have these cycles, you put your pants on, and like whatever, and like you enter into the world, and then you like turn off for the day. And so for us, it doesn't, like, we woke up one day. I can't, they closed it. I don't remember when the actual date it was that they closed it, but one day we went to bed, and the next, and it was one world. We had experienced one world up until this point, and that world is pretty old because Iranians have never done this before. And then, as we were all sleeping, um, there was a whole new world came into existence, where one country asserts its national sovereignty over this really important waterway, and it now affects our whole planet. This decision on the part of, his name is Tang Sidi. He's a martyr now. He's a martyr general. This decision to close the straits, and obviously it was like he's just the guy who enacted it or ordered it, but really this was like the policy of the Islamic Republic, and um, this has now changed our world. We're never going back to like we're never going back to whatever that world was. Like it's never coming back. So, these huge things occur, and we don't even like notice them. We don't even like take stock of like the gravity of it until like months, weeks later, when it starts like registering that, like, oh, we had this good thing going, and it's no longer there anymore. How are you guys?
We're doing great.
I
How are
am.
you?
What did you say? What was the last thing you said?
I said
couldn't
that was
hear
my
it.
answer to how are you doing.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not as weird. Okay, so I'd like people to know that you have family and friends in Iran, right?
Yeah.
Neither me nor Erik does have. I have friends who have family in Iran, and I wanted to actually start by asking you how they are doing and what kind of information can you get from them, like on the ground. I want people to know that you are personally, like, familiarly invested in Iran. It's not
Yeah.
like you're just
No,
an
absolutely.
exiled Iranian and just doing your thing, just cashing your clicks. That's not the thing you're
Yeah.
doing. I just want people to
No,
know that.
yeah. No, and I think it's not at all uncommon, even for like the Iran grifters. They have family there too. It's more, and they use that too to like legitimate their fascism. I think it's more that, just to answer your actual question though, my family's doing okay. I was supposed to talk to my aunt today. She was supposed to call, and you can get through. You can call on like the national phone system. It's not cheap. You just can't use the apps. Like Telegram doesn't work and WhatsApp doesn't work. So those apps are, and I doubt that they ever will. Actually, I think I can't see that going back to. I don't know. Maybe it's still working somewhere. Maybe with people with a VPN or something. Um, Probably people with a VPN can get it working, but actually, I know this for a fact. So I take this all back. But actually, now that I think about it, wait a minute, so and so is still
Yeah,
on it, so I
Arya,
take it back. It's more that I
Arya
wonder.
Arya is doing his updates from
Yeah,
Telegram.
yeah, like,
So,
well, from Telegram. So like, I think there definitely is, let's put it mildly, a complicated relationship between Iranians and the internet, and and that's been part of the story here too. Is how do you as like a state apparatus or like a state, approach the situation where like this really important tool that connects you to the world is also used as this like vector of destruction and sedition and terror. So like what do you do with that? Like what do you Iranians can't build the sort of great firewall that China enjoys. So there's that element. But yeah, no, I reach my family, I reach my friends. I'm actually, doing an episode with Navid soon. He's doing okay. People seem to be ready for what's next. Um, I think at the end of the day, this the Iran that was the Iran under sanctions and the Iran under siege just couldn't exist. It couldn't survive like that. So something had to change. Something had to break. and it seems that the world order that the U.S. used to enforce that siege, that's what broke. That's what I was like. I mean, yeah, it's like so that overall, um, it seems I think over time will become more and more apparent to everyone, including Iranians too. I think Iranians are not excluded from that thing of like it's hard to judge history as it's happening. It's hard to sort of like we're all boiling frogs. What do we know? Like we're all just boiling frogs of time. So we don't. I don't think it's like conscious, but we will look back at these days as like as something profound in terms of the history of all of this. But yeah,
Yeah.
that sort of answers.
I mean,
While
I-
we're
That
on
was okay.
while we're on
No,
the
it was good.
subject, what else do you think? What has the war changed, except for internet and the Hormuz and yeah, what
Well,
has it? What has achieved? U.S. is trying to get what it actually had before the war, which is access to the strait. But
yeah. It's like it's pressing control. It's pressing like
Sorry,
Control Z.
the control said, yeah.
so hard. Control Z. Sorry, I'm a freak Canadian. But like Control Z, it's like no, undo, undo, undo. Go back to how
Yeah.
it was. But it's like no, you did too many things. You can't undo that shit. I think yeah. I think the U.S. smashed its world system. I think they for whatever reason, they believed their own hype about themselves, about their propaganda, which is to say, about themselves, and also what they think about Iranians, insofar as there was a revolution waiting in there was a revolution in like a bar, in like a jar of Pringles, and all they had to do was open the jar of Pringles, and the revolution would come up, and you could just chow down until you hit the. And it wasn't. It didn't work out like that. Their revolution didn't turn out to be very much. I think, and I say this over and over again. This is basically my new religious mantra. But at the end of the day, the only people who can, I wonder what this mouse is for. Sorry, I forget. ADD moment. The only people who can who can regime change the Islamic Republic are Iranians. I don't think. I think if there's any lesson. If there's any lesson in all of this, is the change that's like in our minds, which is the image of the U.S. and Israel too as this all-powerful, all godlike terror that can just bull in a china shop its way through history and undo all the sort of indigenous resistance through its cunning plans, like Baldric. And that's it. All they have to do is just pager terrorism, like enough times. All they have to do is assassinate enough IRGC guys, and like a video game, you get like an overthrow of a government. I really think they thought like that's the only way you can understand this. It's the only way. How else can you explain it? That that they really thought that with the combination of the currency crisis and the currency basically crisis that led to wider economic chaos and rage, which had been on the surface for a long time, which were then turned into essentially like a mass terror attack, combined with kind of like strategic, insurgency. That's the only way you can establish like a kind of mass like a dumb knife attack, which is to say people just stabbing randos, but also targeted attacks on state officials. I heard the other day that a friend of mine, his cousin who works for the city that he lives in, who's like a municipal employee, got hounded, got hacked, got basically stabbed multiple times by like a group of people who just pounced upon him. Another person I know, his PhD student in Iran, got beat up. He wasn't stabbed, but there was a really nefarious, dark thing. And what I referenced earlier in terms of like, the last time I was on this podcast, I think it was just becoming clear what had just happened. And I myself was like, I was kind of waiting for something like this, but like the reality of like, oh my God, like what did they do? And how did this unfold? Like just the dastardly nature, like just how incredibly evil you have to be to like organize the mass slaughter of thousands of people, and then at the same time like administer this campaign of fictional fantasies that the Iranian government did all of this that at its own initiative, and in fact it was much bigger than the number, which was a shocking number, and then it's now morphed into this like ever-changing freaking number. Sometimes it's 40,000. Sometimes it's like Trump just did 42 today. Like something like for a while they were determined on saying 30. The lib normies say 6. Like the reasonable lib normies, they're the ones who say 6 to 7. They're like the most reasonable. But it's like this whole thing, it just, this whole reality of all this is that like this, whatever this was, started with atrocity porn. Like atrocity porn was the tenor of all of this. So the last time I was on this show, I was just kind of like grappling with the reality in front of it. And, you know, it's not, it makes you wonder. So to return to your question, Eric, in terms of what's changed, yeah, like this sort of image in our own minds of this hegemon, I think that's gone. I think the idea of which I think is now becoming apparent to Americans themselves and Westoids themselves, because they are kind of like the you know, the second tier dependence of that empire, right? Because it's the U.S. who guarantees the security of all of our countries, yours and mine, by the way.
Yeah. And
Canada
the
too.
subject for that propaganda,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
like the 60,000 or the
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then they also, yeah. So like they participate in all of that, the same European powers. Like it's all, yeah, I know it's very, and it's crazy. Like on the one hand, they tell you, "Oh my God, we're so shocked by the death of Iranians," and then in the same breath, they say we need to kill more Iranians to liberate them. Like it's you the
Yeah, and they
demands
don't. I
on
mean,
your
they don't
brain.
even give a shit about all the children. Like the whole war started
Yeah.
with Minab,
Yeah,
like murdering almost 200 children and their teachers in an elementary
yeah,
school with
yeah.
quadruple
Which
tap, like 4 times the strike.
yeah,
Like, but it's not. We don't talk about that. We still talk about thousands of imaginary state murdered, massacred
yeah.
people, and we're not. And by the way, it's never gonna go away. Like this, the
It will
idea that
always
the
be.
Iranian
Yeah,
state, it's
yeah,
like even the lipshits, like the lipshits that did sort of a U-turn and say, oh, like they're now sort of pro-Iran against the U.S. and Israel, but they're still talking about, oh, the state massacred, oh, you are for the state massacring its own
yeah.
people.
No, it's really
It's
bad.
fucking insane.
You just, I guess my like to any of those. I mean, they're not listening to this, but I guess my response to them is like, imagine you are a local city cop in like a medium-sized Iranian city. You're watching your society under all this immense pressure. You're seeing them respond with rage, like understandable to a certain degree. Like there was weeks of protests in December and January too, right? I think it was like end of December they started, I'm pretty sure, and then they kept going. And you know, even the first night of the most violent actions, like that first night of like the two most violent, 2 or 3, the cops didn't have live ammunition. They were not allowed. So like you are a cop in those medium-sized cities. You are trying to not make a bad situation worse. So now like that's your job. That's your job as a cop, is to like not make bad situations worse. Because think about over there, they have a real stake in keeping the situation like calm, because there's actual real threats that await them outside the border. So you try not to make your internal situation even worse by acting rashly, by unleashing yourself and doing a bloodbath. And so you're telling me that this guy who recognizes who recognizes what's happening around him is going to do the very thing that will make everything worse. The very thing that the Western press will latch onto and do and use as a weapon against you, and beam into people's minds in the country the idea that, oh, you need to do more, right? And so in the grand scheme of things, there's a weird understanding of all this, which is the revolutionary force of these protest movements. They are revolutionary, but they are in kind of historical terms counter-revolutionary, because of course there was a revolution in Iran, and these are counter-revolutionary forces with the help of external actors who themselves pride, who they like pride themselves on announcing their participation, by the way. You know, that's a factor in all of this. But let me fast forward to the end of this. Like, it didn't mean it didn't succeed. It didn't, the penetration, the depth of the penetration of like the Iranian mind through media, through like this really slick Westoid media, as severe as it is, at when the time came, it didn't work on enough people. Because it's one
I
thing to
mean,
like bring out 30, 10, 30, 20, 40,000, even 60, 80,000. In a country of like 90 million plus, you need to bring out tens of millions. And people just didn't want that. They didn't want to be part of a murder fest. They didn't want to be part of what was clearly some kind of dirty warring. And the fact that, you know, we have this liberal class of people who during the events themselves were helping launder this, they were helping say that this is, oh my God, atrocity. You know, that's something we have to recognize in all of this, that like inside of our own discursive communities, so to speak, there are people who actively collude, like not collude, but who actively aid and assist. I mean, how active is it? They do the acting by circulating this stuff. They don't see it as aiding the enemy. They see it in like liberal terms, which is like, oh, we're fighting we're
We're
using the
objective.
truth. We're signing, yeah, like we're doing whatever. But at the end of the day, like the reality is like they have a similar worldview as like the enemy Zionists and the Americans, which is we want revolutionary change. We want a state overthrow and something new. Like they share that with the enemy. Now they'll come back and say, "Oh, we want it from inside. What they want is state collapse. We want social revolution." Like, okay, like that's something they say, and that's something that you can assess how what that really means. But this the change here that you asked about, it's that it wasn't just like the American. There's two really. There's not just like the American behemoth, the Zio-American, really. It's just one country. That like this Zio-American behemoth is gonna come like Godzilla and stomp on you, like some gross, you know, like Anglo-American Godzilla stomping, Anglo-Russian too, for God's sakes, you know, like a whole mishmash of people stomping on you like some Godzilla, and it's just like over for you. And it was finally Iran's turn, and people had that worldview. People had that feel that, oh, this is time. Like they pushed the regime change button, but the other side of that, not only are they like, is it now clear that they're not as strong and big and scary as we thought they were, or like they projected themselves, but also the Iranian state proved far more resilient than people assumed. Not only resilient against external um, pressures, that a lot of countries could not sustain, let alone for months, but also inflicting severe damage on the actors fighting them and who initiated this war, and accomplishing their strategic goals, right? Which is decolonization. So there's a lot of history unfolding, and there's a lot of sort of theory and praxis unfolding. It's funny, we benefit in this little world of ours. We benefit from the like the fearfulness of Iranian libs to really say any of this stuff. Like they don't want to tackle the reality, which is like these neocon dragoon psycho bloodthirsty freaks gave in Iran an excuse to go from basically global pariah state on par with Venezuela,
North
DPRK.
Korea, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
like these like a pariah state, even if it wasn't in reality the same success, but in the impression and in a lot of different parts of the
I mean,
world, they were a
they
pariah
they
state
could have stayed
legally.
in that box.
Yeah, yeah. But they could. But they. That's the thing. They gave them the. It now showed that the pariah state is now a superpower, and it was like one of the greatest uno reversos of all time, that I'll like never get over. In terms of not only breaking the siege permanently, but establishing a world order where it gets to dictate how capital and like energy and commodities flow through this tiny narrow, like I hope that people swim it. I hope people start doing like races in the
all
Hormuz.
right.
Like it would be great. Like it's like a. I'll take you off the screen, Eric. No worries. this the right mouse? I don't know if I have the right mouse. Oh, this is. So yeah, it is a strange, it's a strange moment. It feels like we're not even at the point where you can kind of make sense of okay the consequences. Okay, I couldn't even figure it out.
Yeah.
Eric's back.
But
So
there's
that's
like
change. Those are the changes. Iran is much
the cha-
stronger than we realize, and the U.S. is the opposite. America is the opposite.
the one thing that sort of popped in my mind when you mentioned the fact that the idea that the Godzilla of U.S. Zionist empire can just stomp on you, that idea is gone. I mean, that idea is the basis of the entire region's ruling elite, sort of their ideology, because they have already accepted that as a fact. Like Turkey, all the monarchies, Egypt, PA, like all of them are like acting from that assumption. But the fact that Iran did not, or showed that that's not the case, that's going to have huge reverberations, I hope, inshallah. But there's also, at the same time, like, there is still people like Richard Medhurst, for example. I mean, I do respect him a lot, and he's putting himself on the line very often. But the idea that this whole thing with Hormuz, this is exactly what the US wants. It's like 5D chess, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
wrong about that.
And there's the other side. There's another aspect of this going all the time, like fishing for, is there a split in the Iranian ruling elite? Is it the reformers Arakchi and Pezeshkian are reformists, so they blah blah that shit. It's like it's never ending, but I don't get how people still don't understand. Like just now, I have Telegram open. On Arya's channel, I can see that the latest answer Iran gave to US about the negotiations is like, end the blockade, freedom to export oil, ceasefire in Lebanon, removing US sanctions, Iranian control of the Hormuz, unfreezing Iranian assets. That's what they have been saying they haven't moved an inch. And they will not move an inch. Like, there is no split. There is no. That's just that's just bullshit.
There's no actual negotiation. The negotiations already took place. There was like weeks of negotiations. It's called war. That's it. Like it's just
exactly.
we did Clausewitz. Is that the Clausewitz quote? Right. It's the war. It's
yeah, I think so.
War by other means or something. That's basically
like that. Exactly.
And that's it. They did the war. And now the new reality has been set. Any government, they could have the most Westoid begging government ever, and it won't change the reality of Hormuz. This is the new Iran. Like Iran basically. Sorry, I'm going to fix my ear thing. Iran, I think that the decision, that phone call is one of the most consequential phone calls in Iranian history, and the excuse to make that phone call was the history behind it, which is to say, because Iran could have made that phone call anytime. Like, that's the thing. They always had the power to do that. They had the power to do that probably 20, 30 years ago to do this. I mean, could they have withstood the U.S.-Israeli assault from 20, 30 years ago? Could they have done what they could? No. Well, they could have withstood something, definitely. But could they have definitely inflicted the pain? I don't think so. But this Iran, like the Iran of 2026, which has had years of prep, which has watched a civilizational genocidal war sweep across, the entire West Asian region, including South Asia as well, for decades now, that Iran planned for this, and this was the plan, and the attack at the end of February was an excuse to enact it. This was the pretext. This was because you get to say you started this. This is like we're back at middle school, where the principal of international law stands up and be like, "What is this mess?" You're like, "Well, they punched me first, so now we're gonna close this." And with that decision, just tells you that what what really killed Iran in the years, in like for 20, 30 years, really in different ways, was the kind of invisible bubble around it of like US siege law and the
Yeah.
US using its power with other countries to enforce that siege violently so, and to choke off Iran's growth and to degrow and to stunt their development and to chase people out of the country, make them feel like life is hopeless, to make the country dependent on terrible lifelines like the Qataris, which is like what turned out to have like one of the consequences of sanctions. So all of this is to say that this was like a big gambit on the part of the US. Or I guess I don't know. Maybe it was even this way. You could even say this was Martyr Khamenei's gambit himself. That,
Yeah.
that like the gambit of like, okay, we're gonna close Hormuz, and we're gonna say that like if you want the stuff that comes out of this region, you have to respect Iranian sovereignty. You cannot you have to make a decision. And I said this weeks ago. I feel like I'm just repeating myself that like all these countries have to decide whether they're gonna abide on the siege of the U.S., siege of Iran by the U.S., the U.S.-led siege on Iran, or if they're going to they're going to watch their societies collapse. Like, or sorry,
Exactly.
either watch their societies collapse and abide by the siege, or deal with Iran, negotiate, pay the pennies that Iran's asking for, relatively not much, and that's it. That's our geopolitical present. That's the most pressing concern of all governments right now. Like, what are we
Yeah.
gonna do? What are we gonna put in that pump? Like,
Because the United States power has been like connected. They have military power and you have the economic power through sanctions, and that enough countries will follow the sanctions and also blockade Iran or Cuba or whoever is the target. And they have the propaganda power. Like there are that's like three main pillars in a way. And now through this suggestion from the Iranians, they're transforming like the end of American military power in the region to the economic side, ease the sanctions, and we take control of the strait, which, yeah, it's a smart move, and I hope
mean,
it works.
there's also, yeah, inshallah, and I mean, it's also, I think it will work. Like materially, if you look at it, I don't see it not working. There is like, I do like if we go back to the idea that this was what Iran always planned. I personally would push back a bit and say that this was one of the plans, and there could have been like that because the both the society and the leadership was divided to some extent in the way they dealt with the US, I think. But this whole like the negotiations before it all started were sort of the last ditch effort by not the I won't say reformists, but like the camp that said we can deal with them, maybe we should try and deal with them instead of war, because I mean this war is extremely costly for Iran at the same time in all the ways imaginable. So I don't think they wanted to throw the country into that, neither of the camps actually, without like proper negotiations. But I think several things like the counter-revolutionary insurgency, the Obi-Waning of Ali Khamenei, because that's what he did. I mean, he openly sacrificed himself for the country, and that will be one of the biggest sacrifices we will ever remember, to be honest. And I mean, those two things, and the fact that the insurgency didn't, like the Starlink stuff, that it didn't work, that they could shut down Starlink. I think it transformed Iran into something that won't budge. They won't budge. Like, I think if it was like a year ago, this would happen. I think the consequences could be different. But now, with all these elements in place, with the martyrdom of Ali Khamenei, I think we're in a completely different Iran. as well. Like all these forces were underneath and had paths to come here, but they are now here.
I would push back a little bit on the idea of like negotiations, because I guess the question is I think the since because even the first round of the JCPOA, right, Barjam, they call it in Persian, like they the Barjam was never there was never much hope for the Barjam in certain sort of like the more principalist sectors of the country, and there was a lot of rage and anger over the costs of getting back of that deal. Now, of course, the lesson that the people who advocated for that deal learned is a lesson that indigenous people across the world have learned, both in the so-called U.S. but also around the world, like an older story, which is like European settlers don't abide by the rules that they say they will. They don't stick to their deals. This is just a thing. They break them when it's convenient, and they use dealings and treaties as part of the colonization campaign. So, AKA the Oslo so-called peace process accelerated the colonization of the West Bank. And so like and part of the story of the Gaza genocide was that the Gaza genocide Gaza was a site of resistance to that let's say neo-colonial approach of like let's make deals. It was the opposite. Like Gaza successfully decolonized. Gaza was like a free zone. They were free of Zionism, and it was just that Zionists ruined their lives and poisoned their world from as much as they could. Like always had, tried everything and worked to basically starve this. But that siege was a siege of an independent people, right? Like Gaza had achieved a certain degree of decolonization, and that's partly why they destroyed it, was as like punishment for doing that. So I guess I completely forgot the question now. You have to remind me.
You were pushing back. You were pushing back
Oh
on me
yes. So
about.
then the negotiations things. The reason why I'm going with this is that like I don't think there. I think there's a lot of there's a sector of the Iranian population that needs to have negotiations occur to feel like, well, at least we tried. And even if those actors themselves, Adakchi, whoever the names that we know, Ghalibaf, right, Jalili, these are characters. Well, they were mixed. It's mixed, but these are not all. The Iranian political landscape is not some uniform, easy way like conservatives, hardliners versus reformers, this and that. Like there are clear, so that's these contradictions themselves. People try to like make a lot out of, and like they debate them. Like a lot of other countries, but in the case of the negotiations, I do feel that there's a degree of performance in the negotiations on the Iranian part, which is like, oh, we tried. You see, we tried. Look, we tried. We went to the table.
Yeah.
We had water there. We had oranges. We put our little deal there. Like we tried, folks. We really tried. Like you're accountable. Iranians are accountable to their own people first and foremost. So if you don't try, what does that say to your own people? Then like, oh, you brought us to this war by not trying to deal with them. And it's like they can say back like, no, we tried. We had these deals. We were doing negotiations. So partly is that Iranians, by doing these negotiations, and imperialists, and then they dangle these guys out, these IRGC, these retired IRG or like retiring IRGC guys, or in the case of this last war, the leader himself. And they like basically say like, okay, we're not going to stop you if you want to kill us. Like, go try to kill us. See what happens. And by doing that, like, which they had done before. Remember, like, True Promise, was it 2 or 1? It was True Promise 1, maybe, was in response to the attack on the Damascus embassy, right? Like a clear act of war. So like all these provocations that had prior to that occurred, the resistance didn't decide that was the time for whatever reason. But by waiting to this stage, they then presented the option of fundamentally changing the rules of the game itself. That you you lance the bubble of American shield around Iran, and then you make a run for it. And that run for it is to Iran's backyard, in a sense, by saying, okay, this little waterway, sorry, it's ours. It's always been ours, and we let you use it because we're nice and we're like a hospitable people. But now, since you did this to us, you wrote us a carte blanche. Like there's now like a carte blanche. They could do whatever they want. They could put like
Exactly.
the wacky inflatable arm man on the Strait of Hormuz if they wanted to, just like going all day if they want to. Like you can do anything you want when you're the aggrieved party, and so it's like it won't change anything. So I don't see any
But
Iranian
but
administration changing that. Liberals cannot fuck this one up. Let me put it that way. The way they do everything.
but
What were you
even
gonna say,
if
Eric?
the negotiations doesn't like produce anything or are like theater, the sanctions are breaking down because the US power is breaking
Yep.
down, and China has now like forced companies to not comply to US sanction against 5 Chinese oil companies who
Mm.
are buying or allegedly buying Iranian oil. They're sending oil through trains to China, and
Yeah.
they're gonna solve it, and more countries gonna wake up and, oh, are we the baddies? And like, not the US and maybe not Sweden like will turn
Mm.
on a dime, but countries on the edge, so to say.
Fence.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and look at like the infrastructure of the Gulf states that have been destroyed. Their safety net of US security is it's damaged, and both ideologically and materially. And without like the best peace deal in history, no one will invest to rebuild those structures.
Yeah.
If the
Yeah.
war is looming, like, oh, it could start any day. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
really
the
bad
Gulf,
investment.
the Gulf minus Iran and Oman is dead. Like that's gone. Absolutely. But there's like I think it was an interesting point there because I wanted to move into like, okay, so internally there was a reason to play this negotiations game, and maybe there is still. Uh, but is there like Russia and China especially? Do they also want this game from Iran? Like, do they want to see these negotiations continue? Uh, or is there pressure from Russia and Iran, Russia and China
Oh,
on Iran
I don't
saying,
know.
"Well, please do not please do not escalate and
I don't think.
turn
Yeah.
it in a full blown global crisis." And even if there were, how much would it actually affect Iranian
Yeah.
sovereign decision?
No, that's the thing. I think there's this idea, there's this idea out there that Iran is just doing what it's told by the bigger partners in whatever sort of global alliance is shaping up. I just simply don't see that. I don't see that happening. That's not the nature of Iranian sovereignty. It's never been like that. It's just I think all of us, we including myself, we all internalized these things about Iran. I think we just did. I think it was so intense. It was decades of it. Just so intense lies about the country, this and that, like, oh, these madmen in control of this country. It was, it started in like decades ago, this campaign, and it's an echo of of 1,000 years of Orientalism for sure, but it's also a unique. It also has a uniquely. I don't want to say genocidal. It has a unique intensity to
Supremacist
it.
or
Yeah, well, it has a unique intensity to it, which is to say, the sort of hexing of Iran because of the Zionist aspect to it, right? Because whenever Zionists show up to something, they make everything like 100,000 times nastier to like that's just like the signature. So I've watched also, I've said this on other shows, like I've watched the sort of Zionization of the Iranian opposition movement, they call it. And just one symptom of that is how they talk. Like they just say like the
yeah,
rudest shit, and this is coming from me. But I would never, like they just say the nastiest stuff, and they like
Yeah, they're really,
you
really
know,
despicable.
there's a lot of them in Sweden too. Yeah, we have the same problem.
Yeah.
We have the same
Mm.
Toronto or like Canada Sweden nexus of Gusanos, and really it's like this tiny minority of people who will never sort of be representative of Iranians just because of their own hatred. And yeah, like they were started so happy during all of this, and now they've watched that their big imperial campaign, that their big daddy Yankee sponsor proved toothless against this like mountain called the Islamic Republic. And it's existential crisis. So there's all the videos of them larping around. They stand around in military
Yeah.
uniforms. There's like 47 of them. It's like the biggest joke on the planet. Like two 20-year-old Basiji guys could take these people on and like just pound them. Like it's the biggest joke. But because they're protected by the European ruling elite and like the media apparatus and the police, they get no trouble. But their fascism has no end. They stabbed a dude in Iran. They stabbed a
Yeah.
dude in London they did it on purpose because he like basically defied them and like became kind of viral. So they like hunted him down later and stabbed him in front of his kids. It's messed up, man. It's messed up. These people are crazy.
I know.
But,
I know people getting threads daily, so as well.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh
it's
my God.
insane. It's really fucked up.
I'm hundreds of kilometers away from like Iranian monarchists. Thank God. I don't know. I don't recognize the part of town. I grew up in the part of town that has become called Tehranto, and you just see these, although a lot fewer now, but you see these monarchist flags. You're like, what are you doing? What is this like fake? Like they just, I don't know. Who cares? I'm so
Yeah.
sick and tired of talking.
Here they showed up with the Israelis and with US flags and taunting demonstrators against the war. So
Yeah.
they really
mean,
pulled their own pants down.
But the funny part is neither the US nor Israel give a shit about them. I mean, it's also obvious now. It's like just
Yeah. of
Trump
course.
said many times, it's like, oh, that guy, no, he's not gonna be able to run the country. It's like,
There was a guy shouting
so
at
cool.
their
It's so good.
Mayday demonstrations, coming on a bike, and it's like, Iran killed 60,000. Iran killed 60,000. We didn't even have any Iranian flags, or we had the Palestinian flags. But this is how everything is connecting.
Yeah.
Before,
Yeah.
everything was like, oh, it's the Ukrainian and the Russians, or it's like, now everything is just, okay, it's two blocks. It's everything.
But I mean,
So the Ukrainians are also taking a hit from like a propaganda hit by being aligned with Israel. And
exactly.
when Russia went into Ukraine, it was a huge propaganda victory for the West. Because of Russia entered
because
Ukraine.
They acted first,
Yeah. Or, I mean, it wasn't the first thing that happened, but it
That
was
was the
presented
framing.
that way. Yeah. With the Gaza genocide, it was like October 7th. This is the start. They started it. But it was so brutal and so unproportional that Israel still lost that propaganda victory. And the Palestinians have been active for years, decades, to get their like story heard and occupation and everything. With Iran, sure, you had this like demonstrations and the regime killed X thousand people. Yeah. But no one thought that Iran had attacked US first. It was the United States and Israel who attacked Iran and started the whole show. So that's a big difference.
Yeah. There's also like I think this is an important point, especially the part about Ukraine. Like here, Sweden is probably the most pro-Ukrainian country in the world.
Yeah, it is.
Like much more than Ukraine itself. Like there was this poll on Zelensky, favorability rates. Sweden topped it by what was it, 80%? Fucking
Yeah,
insane.
they're crazy.
But
If
this, I
if I have a customer who and the Wi-Fi is messy, they think it's Putin. You know, it's
yeah,
Okay,
this
I
is
have
this is
something to
for
say about
reals.
that. We did an episode of we have a show that's paywall. Sorry, everyone, you got to paywall a show sometimes. It's called Pod Capital, and we did an episode on Marx's writings on the Crimean War, and I had never, and that opened up a whole can of worms for me to start thinking about the Crimean War and what it meant to Europe. I had no I had the most shallow understanding of like European Russophobia.
Chauvinism.
Like I had no idea how deep it goes in the European psyche, the fear of like the Russian menace. Here, I'm gonna fix my camera. My camera's, oh my god, that's so much better. Isn't that better? I
you
feel
look
so
great,
much
man.
better. Sorry. So like I had no sense of how deep the frothing over Russia is, and it's generational. That was the 1850s. Like that was the 18 fucking 50s. That was Tsarist Russia. And they still have it going. 18,000 Russias later, like so many countries, like the USSR happened. Like the whole freaking, like the USSR then fell. And then like the Russian Federation happened. The Russian Federation went through multiple iterations. There was a Boris Yeltsin version. Then there was a Vladimir Putin we like version. And then there was the version we're now, which is we hate Vladimir Putin. Like, so it's like, but throughout all of this, Russophobia is like is something coded
Constant.
into. It's like once you get your Schengen passport, you have to like pledge allegiance to hating Russians. Like I swear to be a bloodthirsty Nazi when it comes to Russia. So I had no depth of the understanding of it. Like I did not know just how like it's like primordial in the European imagination, and it's something that
I don't
stretches
think
from
we
like all zones
understand it.
of it. I guess it's a Northern European thing, maybe, because it's Germans, it's French, it's Austrians, definitely. It's like it's all like Turks. For God's sakes, Turks included in this. Like they don't get out of this. Sorry. Like this is what Russia represents in some weird ways. I don't know. Like I remember people were like crowdfunding in Europe to buy Bayraktar drones. Oh my god.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's so deranged.
But I mean,
Although you
but
know
that's
what, like some bullshit like that, you can fake that shit so easily. You can fucking already have one purchased, and then you can like call it like a fundraising campaign, so you get to like tell a story. Like how true is that? I don't know. Maybe it is true. There's nothing I wouldn't put past Europeans.
I do know that people did fundraise for the Ukrainian army in
Yeah.
Sweden.
But like,
I do
how
know
much
that.
was it actually like from popular donations, and then a few angel donors who are named Mr. Raytheon, like who have like Mr. You know what I mean? Like it's like you can fake that, but maybe it was real. I don't know.
I think quite a lot of it was real in Sweden. In Sweden, I can't know anywhere else.
Yeah.
But what I was getting at was, especially in the sort of pro-Palestine circles, that is kind of starting to shift. I've seen several big accounts reposting stuff. I mean, who were previously
Russia?
like, "Oh, Putin bad," blah blah.
Oh,
No,
okay,
no,
like the
Swedish
Russophobia
accounts.
yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
you're
they are
saying
now
Russophobia is starting to turn. Yeah.
I mean, not Russophobia maybe, but at least the Ukraine philia is changing.
Oh, I see.
People are
Ucrophilia,
seeing, okay, these are aligned with Ukraine is aligned with Israel. Like more than US, it's the Israel part that sort of gets to people. There is a change happening, but slow, very slow, but it is happening.
Global fascism is like the hub. Israel and Zionism is like a hub for it. So like they sponsor every fascist movement. Sorry, I'm fiddling around with this stupid thing. They sponsor. They lead. This is where they all traverse fascist movements. So Brazilian, like look maxing, like Brazilian freaking Bolsonaro freaks, Argentinian crypto bros, like American evangelicals, Canadian freaking chud whatevers, like all of these dudes, like they crisscross. They look to Zionism as like, hell yeah, that's an ethno state.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah. Richard Spencer himself was like, yeah, that's something we want. Like, they look to Israel as like, yeah, they stick it to the brownies. They stick it to the darkies, and they have no qualms saying it and talking about it. So we have to, like, that Israel has become like the main, like one of the sort of global hubs of fascism, neo-fascism, genocidal variety too, is something we have to sort of track in all of this. And yeah, it's definitely, man, it's like all the evil countries, they all meet in Israel, like Azerbaijan,
Yeah.
Colombia, like freaking Argentina, like all the bad countries. Hindutva freaks, like they love the Zionist state, man. Like
Yeah.
they love it. It's like obviously Islamophobia plays a role in that. Islamophobia and like the rise of like kind of the Muslim migrant as this kind of figure of immense fear of the European, and probably some of that Ukraine stuff in addition to just straight up chud Russophobia that's like pre-coded into people. But also liberals will just do what their media tells them to do. So if their media falls in love with, becomes like a Ukro-Nazi, like booster, they do that. Like we
Yeah.
don't we probably underestimate the degree to which mainstream media has lost its efficacy. It's lost it on our generation a lot, but there's still like tens of
Yeah.
millions of people in every country who eat this shit up.
I mean, Sweden is a very special case in that, because the state media, or it's not state media, but it's public media, state subsidized, not state controlled directly. It's a weird system, but they have this incredible trust of the people. Whatever they say, people believe it. It's insane. So and
people
they
have
are
very
just
high trust of
completely,
news.
yeah, and it's just completely bananas media. Like especially when it comes to Russia, when it comes to Israel, when it comes to Palestine, when it comes to Venezuela, Cuba, like you name it. They're just completely imperialist in their framing in every single conflict. So and people think that's the truth, and when you tell them it's not, they think you're fucking insane. Which has happened to me many times at work, by the way. So, I mean, I will say this proudly: I didn't stand my ground about Iran. I didn't give in. So I'm like, it's not, those numbers are not true, and people actually do support their government. Otherwise they wouldn't be out on the streets. 25 million people out on the streets on after the insurrection, and they were like, yeah, but it's like they are all forced. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? How can you force?
But why do you engage, man? Like, what's the point? You'll never win.
I mean, because okay, so that's an interesting question. Like, what do we do? Because, but seriously, but I mean, I am serious, because these people, like, for example, the person I was discussing this with, it was with all the, like, we were having a coffee break together. These are people whom I would think, like, I think they're all good people. Like, seriously, I'm not kidding. Like, in their heart of hearts, they think they're good people, and I think that means something. I think they are good people in their heart of hearts, but they don't know shit. Like, they are so propagandized and indoctrinated that they have no clue about reality, actually. I mean, I think you talked about this in your chat with Jared about the provinciality of Europe and the West in general. Like, geopolitics-wise, or the knowledge of the world-wise, Europeans know, especially Sweden, they know nothing. It's insane.
Nothing.
So what do we do? Like, that's like, okay, so my point there was, these people know me. I've been working with them for 2.5 years. I have like personal relationships with them, and I can see that they trust me, like, personally, you know. I can leverage that to at least impart some sort of doubt about what they think the world is.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's why I sort of push back.
Look, you obviously have some belief in, and you have this show, you have these conversations. You're obviously like you're trying to convince someone, and so am I guess. I think for me, I don't feel like I do much convincing on my show. Like, it's more like because we have to just acknowledge how incredibly fascistic our media atmosphere where I live is. I'm sure it's the same for you Swedes, and how just in terms of empire, it's a completely closed shop. So it's both a curse and a blessing for people like us because we have no rivals. There's no, it's just us. That's it. There's like a handful of podcasts. I know
Yeah.
most of them. In fact, I know most of the hosts of them, and that's all you'll really get. Now, maybe that's growing. Maybe that's going to change. Maybe these resistoid conversations are becoming more normalized. I think now that Iran is winning, you're going to see a lot of change. People tend to go with the winner. They tend to be like, "Hey, I like that. I like the cut of your jib. I'll say whatever you need me to say." I think a lot of people just do that. That's how they. Let's be a lot of normies. Um, so it's more like, yeah, you do these things for the long term, and in the hopes that one day there's a record of this. That there's a record that, yeah, some people didn't in our society didn't go along with this. They didn't want this. They didn't want this on their conscience. They didn't want to be silenced. They didn't accept it. And I've come to realize over time that, like, as much as I like, my first impulse is to be like, yeah, whatever, podcasting. But it's more that because in these small little circles that we create, we have this bubble of safety where we can just talk the way we want. We can talk about the things we want, the histories we want to discuss, and we don't have to have like, like mouth frothing Zionists shouting us down about their feelings. You just don't have to. So it's more that, and especially in terms of, and then on the Iran thing, it's even more because it's not Zionists. I mean, oftentimes they are Zionists, but it's even people among your own people who are like, oh, don't say these things. They try to police you. They try to socially kind of like ostracize you from not taking these positions. Don't be too much of a tanky. But it doesn't matter. You just have to be like your own cohesive self. You learn over time. You talk to people. You have conversations. You have the same conversation 50 times if you have to. If that's what it takes. That's what it feels like, at least sometimes. Um, it's just that, yeah, I think we live in a profoundly evil infosphere run by dark forces, and we have to do our best to carve out little holes in trees in the forest, and like people can like furtively visit us in our trees, and we're shouting at the top of our lungs, and like that's the hope. But
Yeah.
you should definitely start your own podcast. If you're listening to this, start your own podcast. Just start it. There's nothing stopping
And come
you.
on to Peacemongers and
Yeah.
talk with us. Yeah, but there is a big media vacuum. And there's also like a big political vacuum because we have like 8 war parties and no peace
They're all
parties.
Greens. Yeah. The Greens one is the most warmongering. Is that true in Sweden too? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
sort of.
It's not. It's not. It's not as bad as Germany, but
Yeah,
it's
Germany is
still
like the
bad.
most warmongering Green Party.
Yeah,
Sorry,
exactly.
Eric, I
No,
interrupted you.
no, it's good. But I wanted to ask you about that. You're in Canada, right?
Yeah,
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 because the militarism in the West, it has like NATO is like one big happy family, right? But they have like different propaganda depending on where it is, and they have
yeah,
different. If you listen to the Israelis, I mean, they're not part of NATO, but they're uh, the same fascistoid structure of Western imperialism. They say it like genocidal shit just straight out. If you want to get elected in Israel, you say murder all Palestinians. It's
yeah,
like the ace in the hole. I mean, we hear what the Americans say, Department of War. They have this like a real American, you know. In Sweden, it's like join the army to protect our values, and there's like a gay couple,
yeah,
and the army going to Pride Fest, trying to like recruit people. I know Justin Trudeau like couldn't have a anything, whatever it was, LBTQ. He went through the alphabet of inclusion every time it was something, even if it's bombing kids somewhere in a brown country. Has that changed? How, like, uh, How is Canada?
Sorry. Yeah,
We can't hear you.
think
Okay, now,
I
okay, yes,
think
sorry.
I think it's I don't I it's interesting the warmongering nature of Canada, because it's not in that European sort of security bubble, whatever. It's just NATO is the background of foreign policy for sure, but because of Trump and his trade war with Canada, there's this like anti-American sentiment is high, to the point where Carney goes to China and basically comes back and says, "Okay, we're getting a bunch of BYD cars." And although we had like a train derailment in Toronto in the winter, and I like think it was the CIA. It was like a warning to Canada to be like, "Don't fuck around. We'll derail your trains." And it was like, right, I don't know. I'm being like a conspiracy. I'm being noited out again, but I swear the U.S. is capable of anything. What would
Yeah.
stop them from derailing a train? Seriously, it's like having a lollipop for breakfast for these people. It's nothing.
Yeah, that's an
It would be like it
afternoon
would
at the
be
CIA.
nothing.
No problem.
It would be like, yeah, it would be. They could do it before their coffee. They could send a text. Like one dude, like Langley, could just send a text, be like, oh, "Okay, Plan 47B, boom." Like I don't know. Like it's more. I feel like that's going to be a consequence in all of this. Definitely, the defeat of the U.S. as an empire is apparent to everyone, and this like Abu Naranha is a symptom of that decline. Like going to him and looking to him to like make things better, and meanwhile, like, planes are crashing into like, transport cars on highways in New York, like in New York City airports. Like it's really decline time for the US. And now their long-term stability and short-term stability, forget it, is completely fucked, because energy war that they started, and on top of that they lost their big Arab cash cows, because those guys aren't printing dollar bucks anymore. The whole petrodollar system, Iranians threw a big wrench into it. So they will seek out what makes them feel better, which is like racism, like blaming brown people, blaming black people. That this is all your fault. It's like the Simpsons thing where he like throws his teddy bear, like, this is all your fault. That's what it feels like. Like they're just gonna find the closest thing at hand and blame them. And maybe before whatever ecological collapse is coming, or before whatever energy war, people will realize like we should be careful. There's this evil country that's like right below us. That's our neighbor, and we share a 3,000 freaking kilometer border with them. And it's a demonic country that has a genocidal history just like us. But Canada's genocidal footprint around the world is much smaller than the US, but the US, it could also be included in America's genocidal footprint if it came to that. And eventually Canadians will have to realize that like their Canuckiness will not save them from the genocidal death throes of the US empire. Now, with that being said, I do think that the U.S. has made itself such into like a hateful beast that anything is possible now. That and the collapse of like the American world system we'll talk about freaking a void, or like a whatever. Like there's going to be such a global void where the U.S. used to be, that now it's like other actors can move in, or who knows, maybe some multipolar system will come into existence. I don't know. I mean, we're getting a little too excited for all of that. Like the U.S. ain't going nowhere for a while, especially with all of its like evil tricks up its sleeve. But yeah, it's not looking good for the Chuds. It's not looking good for the Yanks. This is not high times for the American empire. Let me put it that way.
You said Abu Naranja. Just for people who don't know, it's the father of orange.
Yeah, that's what I call Trump.
It's
Sorry,
Trump.
everyone. You're all forced to come into my world, my lexical world. I'm holding you hostage in my semantic yard, front yard.
I live there, so don't worry about it. So I'm here to translate when necessary.
Please, my
But,
Kurdish translator.
Yeah.
I speak Sina.
I mean, like there's like in parallel, there is this AI bubble craziness going on, and it is getting like exponentially worse because the bottleneck right now there is the energy. They're trying to build these data centers that are like drinking gigawatts of energy, or supposed to drink. That's the thing as well. Like some of them exist, some of them are supposed to be built, but they won't be because they can't be. It's like, and that's gonna tank. Like already it was a bubble, but it's just growing and growing and growing. Like OpenAI is supposed to make, OpenAI is the ChatGPT guys. This is Zionist shit, of course. They are supposed to make what, like $800 billion in 10 years, so that they're like, so that the business just continues. And Oracle is directly tied into this. The Larry Ellison, which is, he's probably the most Zionist tech bro guy. He has, I think, personally invested like $50 billion or something into this project. So that will all tank quite soon. And when when it does tank, I mean, we're gonna see, I think, like 10 or 100 times 2008 crisis. That's what I'm expecting. Like when you asked how are you feeling, I'm like, I'm waiting for that to happen. Sort of on top of all this, like we haven't seen the effects of Hormuz yet in the West still, because the bullet is moving slow. It's shot, we're all dead, but it is moving very slow. Like
but haven't your gas prices spiked yet? Surely.
Spike. I mean, it's still less than the Corona times.
Oh, really?
For example, yeah. But it's gonna. I mean, it is.
It's true here, slightly less, but it's not. It doesn't. Yeah, that doesn't help.
Went up like 20%, 25%, perhaps.
Same with us. Yeah, ours went up more actually. Probably 50%.
I think it's around 30% here, like the raise.
It might actually.
Because I remember it was like 14, 15, and then it's around 18, 19.
I see.
But yeah. I don't know what percent that makes. Anyways, but yeah, so the impacts to global economy, we are speculating, but I mean for Sri Lanka and South Asia, it's not speculation, they're rationing energy. But I mean in Sweden, I think it was last or 2 weeks ago, they did actually say that they're announcing an emergency for flights, which is something they have to do. Like that's one of the steps before they do rationing. It is coming. It's
our way of life is over. This ultra consumerist way of life is over. That's it. The Zionist Americans decided that it was time for a new way of doing things. And we're all living in the consequences of that. And we will live in the consequences of that forever.
But I mean, so that people don't misunderstand, do you mean they have a plan? Because I don't think so.
No, they don't. No, they just they reached a point where they had to kill. They had to expand the scope of this war. They had to include Iran. They wanted to open the front. They wanted to open Iranian front. Iranians wanted them to open that front because it gave them an excuse to go for the real front, which is like the international which is the Hormuz, and using Hormuz as the leverage to create a tunnel, to basically dig a tunnel to a new world where China and Russia and like not the US are the biggest actors, and that world is not invested in strangling Iran. In fact, they probably want to see Iran thrive. Now, we can argue to the merits of that. A lot of people don't believe that, especially when it comes to Russia. But I just simply do not see Iran's future continuing in any satisfactory way under the aegis of Pax Americana. Pax Americana is over. They killed Pax Americana. It's over. Yeah. The American peace that was secured in the 1990s through the end of the Cold War and was the ground for which was the Cold War itself, right? Where America spread its eagle wings and it flew around the planet and it collected all the European vassals and it propped them all up and it put like the right anti-communist, gladio operators in charge. And then it found its like resource hubs in the various global south countries that imperialists do, and it orchestrated it to this huge extent relatively successfully. But then this ethno-state, man, this ethno-state and its genocidal projects, they just couldn't wait. They couldn't wait for Iran, to teeter and fall for another, decade or something. They just couldn't wait. They had to go for the big enchilada. And in like a cartoonish way, it's backfired. And not only is Iran stronger than ever, but it's also poised for a much brighter future than what was waiting it. There's a new world. It's like the birth pangs of a new world, birth pangs of a new Middle East, as Condoleezza Rice said it all those years ago.
It was exactly the war Iran was prepared for.
Waiting for, hoping for.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was a
for
war
46 years. Yeah.
It's a tunnel. They had to tunnel their way under the American world system. And it was that tunnel was ready. It was ready the whole time. It was just they had to wait for the excuse to the Americans to give them to make the break. They're like making a break for it. And now they're like they're bringing their people to the other side of that world where it's much, much brighter for Iran and much, much darker for the entity. I don't care what you think. A world where Iran is strong is a world worse, much worse for the entity. That's the reality. We probably should end it here because I'm like running out of brain power. Because it's like the part of their genocidal attack. It's not just like they want to be number one, of course, but it's more they want to enact their racist Jewish supremacist worldview, which is like we descendants of European Jews and like their American, whatever Anglo-American progeny. Like we are like the master race. 7 million of us will flex control over 300 million of you, and you will live under the power of our planes. And one country, in combination with other countries, leading them, or not leading, but like is the biggest actor among them, which is Iran, leading other countries, namely Yemen, or parts of Yemen, because it's complicated, but also parts of Lebanon too. But that and Gaza included that too. All of these fronts are like an indigenous people's front. And those indigenous people are defeating the settler hordes that have been terrorizing our region for a long time. And that's the reality here, is that like the natives have managed to inflict such a blow on the settlers that they like didn't see it coming. And not just like the settlers themselves. It wasn't that you had to smash. I mean, Iran did smash the U.S. empire. Like those bases are never coming back. Those bases were pummeled. And so was the entity too, but it was more Iran attacked that world system. And I don't think that world system is coming back from this. I just don't see it. So
do you think they will attack Iran again?
Yeah, they might. Yeah, it's a very real
or
chance.
that the war is gonna
I mean, it's happening right now. There's things happening right now. There's like a low-level war. But I don't know how much it matters. I don't know what they can do that ratchets it up. I mean, I think the Iranian response is it's I don't know if you guys know this. This is like a theater kid song here that all the theater kids sing on their way up, which is like anything you can do, I can do better. It's like a back and forth song between people, between like like sometimes it's like a man and a woman singing against each other, and it's like that's like Iranians are in that position. Like anything you can do to inflict pain on me, I can do better to all of like the vassals and the world system underneath you. The Iranian world system is self-enclosed. It's just the country. It's right there. It's the American world system is distributed. It exists along all these nodes. It's dependent upon all these like crazy structures. And even now, I mean, the biggest news of this weekend is Iran is talking about controlling the cables, internet cables.
Exactly. I was just gonna talk about that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I've heard this before, like months before. Iran is gonna do, or they're threatening to cut the cables. I'm like, they haven't said that yet. No, but now they're actually saying it.
Them? Yeah, But
No,
it's
no,
more
not
like
like that.
you
But
can't.
now they're
Yeah,
saying the control.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's more that there's an acceptance now that you can't just kick Iran anymore. You can't kick around Iran anymore. That like,
Yeah.
and by choosing this act, it's an act of sovereignty. It's an act of decolonization. It's an act of anti-imperialism, and now this will set a precedent for other countries to do this. That like you can't. Why should you live in a world where this evil genocidal hegemon gets to decide the laws of economic and technological gravity? Why? Why should you allow that? If Iran
Mm.
wasn't able to participate in that world normally, if Iran can't use that internet, why should we? So this is the place
While
we're
that,
in.
while the infrastructure is going right in your
Yeah.
waters as well.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
mean,
Like
there's also
all of
like
that was happening again, like at the hospitality of Iranians. Iranians allowed this
exactly.
conversation to happen.
Yeah.
Because they just let they let these cables underground exist, but they don't have to.
Exactly. I mean, it's also like I know you want to go, sorry, but I want to tie this to Palestine because that's still the at least one of the cores of this whole thing. Because like Iran and Israel, like geographically, they are distant. I don't even know like if the Greater Israel Project includes parts of Iran.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Like Iran, there is a parallel universe where the revolution, Iranian revolution, just went well. Okay, we drop Palestine. We don't talk about Palestine, and we won't fight Israel. They would thrive in a much different way in these 46 years. Like they would be left alone in a much wider.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's the question. No, it's true. It's true. No, I've thought about this too. Sorry, keep going.
No, but it's like so, but they didn't, and people don't understand this. Like, it's not because I had this people keep saying this shit like, oh, Iran doesn't care actually about Palestine. They do.
No, it's for their own
They have
self-interest. How is that in your self-interest to take on the US?
exactly.
It's not in your self-interest. It's crazy. I've had so many different like senior Palestinian academics. Rashid Khalidi says this. He says this that they do that for their own interest. It makes no sense. It is one of the most costly foreign policy stances on the planet. It lands you in immense trouble with the global ruling class. And Iran's
Yeah.
position is somehow somehow an act of selfishness. Like there's a secret benefit that none of us are seeing right now to being pro-Palestine. But yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
No, it's a principled stance. It's a principled stance for decolonization.
Exactly.
It's sovereignty. It's a
Faith.
dedication to their indigenous religion. Remember, like Iranians, there's a portion, a good chunk of the Iranian population are religious. They are religious people. They believe in religious tenets. They look to Al-Quds as a major important city to their religion. It's this is not just like some foreign policy. This goes to the roots. This is about natives. Like this was in the back of my mind during our episode. I don't even know if it came up, but it's one war. It's one war unfolding for 500 years. And that weekend, or like whenever that was, it was like a Monday or Tuesday or whatever when we spoke, it had never been so apparent to me. Like that it was like my like I'd known it in my heart, in my head, I'd known it, but it had never been so clear, the connections, like the indigenous women talking about like looking for their relatives in this like the grounds of this like Montreal hospital that used to like, and the connection between that and the Gaza, the Palestinian in Gaza who's like looking for the remnants of his family, to like down the line, like a few months later, that was January, but like 6 weeks later, it would be about people looking through Minob for like the vaporized remains of their relatives. Like it was all just one war unfolding, but we're not used to seeing indigenous people rise up and fight so effectively that not only does it make the settlers reel backwards, but it actually inflicted mortal wound. I think these are mortal. I think they're mortal wounds what Iran inflicted on the U.S. because it's not
Inshallah.
the U.S.'s lethality is not from its physical body, but from it's from the Wizard of Oz element of like I am this all powerful beast. And so like Iran drew back the curtain and said like, oh, it's just this old decrepit, like pasty white guy from Indiana, like with his freaking
Yeah,
boxers down.
but the
And
United States lost in Vietnam. They lost in
yeah,
Afghanistan, but in a sense,
they
they didn't
lost.
lose. They
Yes,
they
thank
they
you.
laughed all the way to the bank
Yeah.
on the way home from Vietnam, and Afghanistan was
Well,
20
yeah,
years of good opium. And but this is something different.
it is.
It's a
It is.
real
It
bloody
is.
nose, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna take Cuba then because they won't
Mm.
resist. It's like a grumpy old Trump
Oh wait.
going home. Take the Caribbean.
Yeah. No, I think about this too. Is that like the story? I think the Americans fight wars for intentions that are both stated and unstated. Obviously,
Yeah.
the nature of American military economy requires this massive military buildup and use and you need an excuse sometimes to blow up all that stuff. And obviously, the Ukraine war was a huge reason for that. The reason why we hear about the Ukraine war, it was because of that. Um, I meant to say something earlier about how the difference between Russia taking the initiative of attacking. Because remember what happened in that was after the Munich conference where they sent the little rat Zelensky to basically make nuclear threats by saying that it was like we're not going to be held accountable. We're not going to hold to like whatever Bucharest convention, the convention that
Mm.
they signed in the 90s saying we're never going to pursue nuclear weapons. So like that was the thing that pushed them over the edge because they were doing a war for 7 years prior to that. There was a simmering war. It was nothing like we saw in Gaza. Like I think the total deaths are still, at least for that phase of the war, was under 20,000, maybe even under 15.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
think it was
it's
14.
14,000.
Something
Yeah.
like that, yeah. Like scale of the numbers, which is like still a huge number, but it's nothing to the scale that we're used to in terms of Syria, Libya, like just in where you're talking about hundreds of thousands. But I think about that in terms of like what American military warfare is for. The Vietnam War, again, it's more complicated than that in the sense of sovereignty of Vietnam, standing up the examples that Vietnamese set. Um, I think Vietnam's role in the sort of new sort of American, I don't know. Anyways, that's another can of worms in all of this, which is like, is Vietnam as a state, like where does it stand in the American world system? Is the Vietnam that was the victor of that war, which it was? Um, is that what does that victory look like? Does it take a position? Whereas in a like you don't the fact that Israel exists in all of this is the complicating factor, right? Like there's no Israel in Latin America. I mean there is, it's called Argentina, but like it's like the Israel factor and all this where you have this belligerent actor working 24/7 to destroy regional stability and basically enslave everyone. There's no other place like this. There's no other region in the world that has this factor. So the fact that Iran exists as a counterpoise to that is a historical response to the existence of that entity. You wouldn't need all these missiles if you didn't have this hostile actor. Now,
Yeah.
so that's sort of in the mid. That's kind of like in the center of all this is that like what you don't the sort of story of the whatever's happening in Venezuela, as heartbreaking as it is, there's no actor like Israel that motivates other actors to to like basically to like arm up. Like you have like a limited arms race, and on top of that, there's another like complicated factor, which is the U.S. is such a military force, and it's right there miles away, like fewer than 100 miles away in some instances. What do you do with an actual behemoth right there? Like, is there any government in Latin America that could resist an American invasion in any real way? And that, like, I mean, I was just talking with Justin Potter, basically no. Whereas in Iran, you're much farther away from the American homeland. It's not now, of course, that's why partly they created Israel, was to create a base for themselves of the West for them to then use as a military. But it's not. You need the whole U.S. empire to corral a country like Iran, and they don't have that. I mean, we're hearing these reports of this base that they built in Iraq
yeah.
and stuff, but. It's just the whole region is hostile to this Zionist actor and their American sponsor, and that's not changing. And the fact that one actor stood up and worked so effectively, and their allies are working so effectively, like Hezbollah is just kicking ass in northern Palestine.
It's amazing
So
stuff.
it's
yeah.
I don't know. We should wrap up.
I mean-
I'm going loopy.
Yeah, there's just one thing, like the difference
You keep
between
saying
Vietnam
that.
and Iran.
Sorry, saying
What?
you're hostage. You're on our show now.
I'm being held hostage. Blink.
Yeah.
You see me, people? Help me. Touch your button if you're being held hostage.
Batman will come and save you. I don't care. It's all the racial slurs you threw at me. It's vengeance time.
No, I never did that at all. Don't make things up. Don't tell the people what I do offline. Stop it.
No, but
I
like,
only
what's
do them for Mehmet. Okay, if it makes you feel better.
it's an expression of love between
Yeah.
us. Just like so what happened when US lost to Vietnam versus what will happen when US loses to Iran? Those are hugely different. The results would be
Yes.
hugely
Yeah.
different. That's just what I wanted to
The
add.
nature of the loss itself is what was lost is much more painful for the U.S. than what in Iran. There's Iran, the area around Iran is so influential to U.S. policy. It's so special. So it's unfortunate for the U.S. Like people always make this joke, like, "Oh, Iran found itself in the middle of our bases," but like it's more unfortunate for the U.S. that Iran finds itself in the middle of their bases. That, like it's just because Iran is so big, it's so like population is so large and educated and has so many resources, and it also has allies beyond itself that. It's not. This is not Saddam in 2003, starved, like without a friend in the world. This is not Libya, divided internally. You have his son calling for the opening of the kingdom or whatever, like opening of the republic to everything. It says not a much smaller country, by the way. Like this was the degree of difficulty of it was also new for them. In the way that like the degree of difficulty for countries like Venezuela fighting the US, Iran difficulty is like the behemoth of taking on a country that big, that armed, and also in the middle of all their action. Like in the middle of, like they're huge, they have all these casinos, basically, that are pumping them full of money, and Iran is right there. They can destroy it with $30,000 drone. So it's not even just like the Iran defeated the U.S. on the like Iran. It's like the era of American relevance is gone. It's like they were defeated by time itself. The clock. It's like the clock is up. The clock ran out on the American way of fighting wars. American hegemony. You can't build hegemony with aircraft carriers. Sorry, you can't.
The poopy Jerry. That's
Poopy Jerry. It's not working on anyone. It's not 2003. It's not 1999. You can't just bully a country like Iran into submission. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, bros.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, Sina.
Guys, I have one message to all of you.
What is that?
This is
read it out. I can't read it. Die philosopher.
Die Philosophen haben die Welt nur verschiedene interpretiert. Es kommt
oh my God, you
aber
sound like
darauf
Hitler.
an, sie zu verändern. I'm bringing out all my years of German.
It's Marx.
Die Philosophen haben die Welt nur verschiedene interpretiert. Es kommt aber darauf an, sie zu verändern. It's German. It's from the thesis on Feuerbach. It means philosophers have only managed to interpret the world. The point is to change it. So Iranians, a bunch of Shia Muslims, they did the thing that Marx told communists to do. So,
Exactly. That's
It's
it. Great
Kommt
great
darauf an.
finish.
Thanks, guys. I wasn't
Take care of
a
yourself.
madman in this one, eh? It was more controlled. Oh, I should turn
was
it
Yeah,
off.
you
beautiful.
were. I mean,
I should turn off the recording before I start talking about it. All the people who listen to this are SOBs. Oh my god.
Okay, we'll do our outro. Please support Samir Project and
Yeah,
Lifeline
please
for
support.
Gaza. Follow us on the stuff and like and press the
Exactly.
buttons and record, put it on a tape, give to your grandmother.
Do it while eating
Um,
Melba toast. Have the meatballs. Do all the
Just-
nationalist Swedish things.
Yeah,
a
do
saw.
that.
And
Yeah.
and you have Mohammed's
Saab doesn't
Yes.
exist anymore.
fundraising. Yeah.
Oh yeah, is
exactly.
Saab gone? Did they kill Saab? Is it over?
Yeah, it exists as a weapons factory. The airplanes
Exactly.
From
and
whence it came.
trucks,
Ah,
but
well.
not the cars.
But Volvo's still around. You guys
Exactly.
still have Volvo, right?
Yeah, but that's Chinese.
We don't have it. Yeah.
Oh, is it really? Has it been bought?
Oh yeah.
Yep. It's
Oh,
been a
they
while.
make it in Sweden, a lot of parts,
Oh,
but
okay, good.
it's
So it must be
Chinese
better now.
owned.
If the Chinese run it, it must be
Yeah,
better.
yeah, of course.
No, they're giving us the shit stuff. We don't get the
really?
BYDs and all that.
Yeah. No, we're not getting
I
the
don't know.
good stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna press.
It's
I'm gonna
still-
press end record.
Okay,
Bye, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Here, stay here. Stay here.